Here we go with video. You know that episode of Bob's Burgers where he's like, fine, I'll do it, but I'm going to complain the whole time. I feel like that's me right now because I really don't feel like being on camera. I'm like, why do I need to get dressed up and look cute? And I've decided I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show up as I am and call it good. So that's what we're going to do today. Hiya, homie. Welcome to the Reclaimed Woman, the podcast that's part healing circle, part nervous system decoder, and part thank God it is not just me, mom chat. I'm Jessica, mom, cycle breaker, holistic family guide, recovering overthinker and people pleaser, and someone who has definitely felt like a bad mom more times than I would love to put on public record. Around here, we go way deeper than parenting tips. We talk about what's happening underneath the meltdowns and the chaos, yours and theirs. The overstimulation, the shame spirals, the childhood wounds that sneak into your parenting, the emotional load that makes you feel like you are drowning, and the parts of you that are trying so freaking hard to hold everything together without a village. This isn't the place for perfect moms. This is the place for real ones, human beings, for the women who are trying to break cycles, build a healthier foundation for her family, and actually reclaim herself in the process, even when it feels messy, confusing, and downright overwhelming and uncomfortable. If you've been carrying everything alone, questioning yourself, or quietly wondering if you're failing, you are not. You're overwhelmed and maybe even burnt out, and you are in the exact right place. What I really want to talk about is the fact that motherhood has such a way of kind of sneaking up on you and like taking your entire personality and then throwing it in like a salad spinner and then freaking yeeting it across the room. And like one day you're like, I know exactly who I am. I know exactly what I want. The world is my oyster. And then you have a baby and postpartum hits and all the other things that come along with the changes of a baby. And then suddenly you're like, what the fuck is happening? Who am I? What do I want? Who is this person? I can't tell you how often I say, who am I? Since when do I say stuff like this? Like the other day, we went to see the re-release of Wicked, and I was like, yeah, it was a good movie, but for me, the story didn't have enough texture. I'm like, since when do I say that things need more texture? That's just not anything I ever thought I would do before. It changes you. I guess my point is, if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't even know who I am anymore, same. I think we're all in this together, because literally, as a mom, I don't think there has ever been anything more confusing than who I am. I used to be a city girl, and I was like, I'm going to go live in like a 10th floor walk up with my little dog and my fancy Carrie Bradshaw outfits, and I'm going to have a business job in the city, and I'm going to wear my cute little sneakers, and then I'm going to get to work and put my heels on, and it's going to be amazing. And I'm going to go out to all the shows and blah, blah, blah. But yet I always knew I wanted to be a mom, so I don't know where I thought that was going to fit in. But then I had kids, and not only did I start homeschooling, which I never thought I was going to do, but then I decided I wanted freaking cows, and I wanted to move out of the city. I want to be closer to a city, but I don't want to be like in the city. I want all this land and stuff that I have to upkeep, and I want like a garden and like goats. And I'm like, what? When did I become this person? Somewhere in the last, well, Johnny's going to be 9 here soon. So like somewhere in the last 9 years, I did a complete 180 in my personality. And I'm like, where did that come from? And we're talking about this because I think it's really important to say that like we're not actually losing ourself. We're losing maybe a version of ourselves, but we're not losing who we are. We're still who we are. We just all evolve through life. Motherhood kind of has a way of like cracking open all of these unseen parts of us that we didn't even realize were there. And it also shifts the way we move through life in terms of like our values and our goals. We've talked about this on a past podcast, which I will be resharing soon too, but you can go back and listen to that. There is an actual term for that, and it's called matrescence. Sometimes I like to say matrescence. I don't know. I think it's matrescence. But it's literally the entire core identity shift of like having kids and how it changes you. It's kind of like the puberty of becoming a mom that isn't really talked about, because we know that things change when we have kids, but it's not talked about on how much you change as a person. sure, we talk about what we give up and the pressures of being a mom, but we don't talk about how much that actually changes who you are on like a fundamental level. Literally, our hormones change, they completely shift. Our brains get completely rewired, our insides get rewired. Like everything within our being changes when we go through the process of being pregnant, having a baby, nursing. If we nurse, like there's just so many things and so many factors that go into becoming a mom. Essentially, our entire being just dissolves and then like reforms. I actually just heard a thing the other day about the dragonfly because a lot of times people talk about butterflies when they talk about like a metamorphosis, but I guess with a dragonfly, it's like different because it's some kind of like water being. And so it only knows the water. And then it, for whatever reason, its body tells it needs to like get out onto land. And then it like, I don't even know the whole process, but it like melts down or something and then becomes a dragonfly, which is totally different than the butterfly because the butterflies are already caterpillars. So it's literally going from water and all it knows is the water. Like all we know is being single and ourselves and whatever. And then it goes into this completely different world without water that it's going to thrive in. Right. And it's kind of like how we become parents. And it's a completely different thing. Like we can't even really imagine a world without our kids once we've had our kids. It just doesn't even seem like it's possible. And when we're in the prior part of that, we're thinking about how we want kids, but we know nothing about what that would actually look like. We think we know, but we have no idea until we're in it. And so it was really interesting to think about it in terms of that, how our entire reformation is from two totally different worlds that we're expected to navigate when we can barely navigate the world as is. And then we're expected to go through these crazy phases and just know how things are supposed to be. And even within all of that, like if we're considering that like a puberty level thing and we think about that, because like researchers actually do say that the changes in our brain are kind of like hitting puberty. And we all have heard the stories and the things about teens and how they change and they get so cranky and all the things because literally their brain is developing and being rewired and completely shifted. And that also happens actually around the time that they're like 8-ish too. But like every phase where these big changes come in a kid's life, their brain completely flips around and does it doesn't actually flip around, but like it completely rewires and like shifts and changes. For me, the past 2 years have been insane. My kid is over 2 and she just will not stop nursing. Like ever. Like weaning has been so hard. My other two just weaned on their own. And every time I think, what is going on with me? I remember I'm still nursing. I am still very, very hormonal and I am still postpartum. So if you feel like your emotions are on steroids, as I definitely feel, or you're like 80% cortisol, like 20% pure caffeine that you just want to inject straight into your veins, I am right there with you. And it's not cute. It's not cute at all. But it is normal. So I guess we can take comfort in knowing that at least it's normal that we are like bridge trolls. Anyways, moving on. So part of that change really comes from the fact that we have so much more of a mental load. As women, we tend to have a heavier mental load anyway because we are more the worriers biologically and the nurturers, the caregivers, all the things. Like we are the people that need to take care of what's going on. We're the schedulers and the we're everything that comes into maintaining the home, right? And so when we have kids, it just accentuates it more because now it's not just worrying about ourselves, it's worrying about the kids. And if you have more than one kid, or if you have a spouse you're worried about, or maybe you have an elderly parent living at home, there's just so many things that could go into that. And so as a mom specifically, though, just having one child now adds on to maybe you were worried about your appointments, your work, your transportation. Maybe you have a pet. Let's say you have a pet. You worry about vet bills and feeding your animals and taking them on walks, right? So then you decide on top of that, you find a person you want to spend your life with. You're now worried about their well-being, maybe their appointments, maybe their transportation, maybe their insurance or whatever. You get married, so you have all those things that you worry about. If you get married, like these are just general ideas of things. This is just how it went for me. And so Then you have a kid and now you're worried about with the child for your appointments before the kid's even here. You've got to worry about all of your appointments. Are you eating right? Are you nourishing your body, taking care of your body? Are you exercising properly, all of those things. And then you're making all the appointments, you're getting all the testing done. Then you have the kid. And you're also worried prior to that on your birth plan and what your choices are going to be after you have the child. And then you have the child, and now suddenly you're worried about their appointments, your appointments, and transitioning into your routine. So you're thinking about all of those things. And then maybe you go back to work. So you worry about going back to work. Maybe you don't, but even still, you have to maintain diapers and you still have to maintain the dog and the transportation and the bills and all of the things. And it's a huge, huge mental load because there's so many little details that have to be remembered. Do the kids need shoes? Are they going to school? If they're at school age, do they have all the things for back to school? Oh, there's a birthday coming up. Now I need to make sure that we have something for the birthday. Is it a bake sale? Is there an event that's coming up? Do they need to have clothes for that event? Are they in sports? Do they need this? Are we running them around? There's so many things constantly going on in our head, and that is a huge mental load. Studies do show that moms do the majority of the emotional and the planning labor at home. It's just the default. It's like the default parent to the emotional and the mental loads within the household. Translation, your brain essentially has like a Costco size list of everything that needs to be done, and you're expected to handle that. And that's not realistic for one person. It's just not. And it may look like people online are doing that, but they are not. They're not either. Something is being missed, or they have help, extra hands on deck, And then on top of the tangible items, we're talking modeling behaviors, teaching children, handling outbursts between kids, co-regulation, besides just those like hands-on like bills and feeding and, that stuff. We also have to be present and emotionally available for everyone who needs it. And when your brain is full of that much crap, you don't have any room left for you. So of course you're burnt out. Of course you're stressed. Of course you feel like shit some days. Most days, maybe. That's exactly why overstimulation hits you like a ton of bricks. It makes me think of like the military shows where the guys like fill socks with like bars of soap and then they just beat the shit out of it. Like that's kind of what I think of as like overstimulation. Like you're not expecting it. You're thinking everything's good. And all of a sudden the freaking overstimulation comes in with a sock of soap and just beats the shit out of you. And you're like, why can I not get it together? It's a lot. And I've been feeling that way a lot lately. When you also, on top of your mental load, have ADHD, which makes being more forgetful even more prominent, struggling to keep up with everything even more prominent, overstimulation even more prominent, the things that you liked before, they say to check out those things for like depression, like keep an eye on it, like if you're not enjoying the things you used to. But sometimes it's not even depression, it's just like overwhelm and just exhaustion. And so the outlets, maybe, the creative outlets that you had or just the things you enjoyed before, maybe you don't do anymore. And I know that's true for my husband. Like he used to work out all the time and now he just doesn't really have the time or the energy to do that. And when he does, it's like he wants to spend time with his family. So it makes it really difficult. And half the time, I know for myself, I can't even finish a freaking full sentence. Like I can't tell you how many times I tell my kids, I'm like, I need you to just give me a minute because I can't even think. Like I can't. My brain just spirals and I'm like, I don't even know where I'm trying to go with this. It's bizarre. And I think we really often just want to think that there's something wrong with us for feeling this way. And there's not. Like people only have so much bandwidth. Like I don't know where we got this idea that we needed to be just superhuman. And I know people will say that we're super moms, like as a term of endearment to try to make us feel good, but it's like that is a lot of pressure that I don't think people realize that they're putting on us either. We are not superhuman people, and we need the grace to mess up. We need the grace to take a step back, and we need the grace to be able to ask for help when we need it. And we need people to honestly want to help when we do ask for it. I ran into someone the other day and they were like, hey, how's it going? I was like, hanging in there, And when I came home to talk to my husband, I was like, I thought about it after I said it. Like, what if I had just been like, oh, I've got no job. The holidays are coming, all these things. I have a job, but what if I was like, I need more job, more hours to pay my bills. I can't do that. I'm stressed out. I feel like I have no one around me and like no friends and, just whatever. What if, like, because I was having a bad day that day, anyways. So I was like, what if I had just unloaded? People ask how you're doing, but they really don't want the real answer. They want the living the dream kind of answer. And it made me just think about that. Like, how often are people struggling so freaking hard, but they won't say anything because we know that you don't really want that answer. Like, you're asking because that's just the polite thing to do, not because you actually care at all what somebody else has going on. It's like we have 47 tabs open all the time, and like four of them are frozen, and like one is playing music, and then somehow there's a video somewhere playing that we don't even know why there's two sounds going over top of each other, and we don't know what the hell's going on because you can't find it. I don't know. I think the biggest part that no one prepared me for specifically is my kids really being like tiny mirrors. Like I knew my kids would copy a lot of the things I did, but I didn't really think about my healing journey and how it would manifest in them if I wasn't taking care of myself, and how the anxiety and stuff would show up in my kids if I wasn't taking care of myself, or what kind of fear I might be instilling in them if I wasn't checking my own thoughts and reactions to things. And now, when they do something and I'm bothered by it, or I'm like really frustrated, or I feel like snapping at them, I am immediately like, oh, where am I not giving them the resources or the tools that they need? That this is showing up and it's obviously bothering me, but that means that I just haven't taught them this, or that. Now, my kids are also still young, so I know, and they're homeschooled, so I know that there's certain things that I am the one that needs to teach them that. They're not getting that from other places. So one of the people that we talk about when I was like getting certified to coach and just in general in the parenting world is Dan Siegel. And he works a lot with like attachment and mindset and things like that when it comes to parenting. And people like him have talked basically forever about parental triggers and how becoming a parent triggers the old wounds that maybe you thought were good, like you had squashed that. And it brings back up a lot of chaos within you when you become a parent. It like kind of brings back that inner child, and it really highlights the things that you wanted as a child and you want to give to your kids. And it shows you where those fears and desires are better than really anything. It's like we've put them into like this little storage box in our mind, and then we have a kid and suddenly we're triggered and overwhelmed and emotional and guilty and shameful and overstimulated, because I feel like that's like a huge one. That's like my baseline is like overstimulated. And, we have all these emotions come up, and it's not because we're crazy or we're overreacting or whatever. It's because parenting literally brings those things back up. We thought it was okay, and it's not, and we realize where we need to do some more healing. It shines a spotlight on the things we need to know so that we can become the best versions of ourselves. So it's actually a blessing in disguise if you choose to look at it that way. It's not being mentally unstable or, whatever other things that people like to call people, whatever. We all have our own stuff. So I completely resent those kinds of terms, but it's not being unstable. It's literally giving yourself the awareness that you need to become a better version of yourself and raise your kids. And I think that that's beautiful, because I've seen things where they talk about, how you kind of grow up alongside your children, and the kids don't realize their parents are growing up too while they're growing up. And I think that that's part of it. I think that that's why, is because a lot of the maturity that comes out of parenting is really a big sense of self-awareness and learning where your triggers are, where your healing needs to happen. And that's what causes that maturity. It's literally everything that you have had to do to survive through your whole life. And I mean, I say that like not everything is a you had to survive, but you did. You had to go through these things, and it's everything that you've ever had to go through and survive coming to the surface and getting aired out, really, and released, hopefully. And that's just part of being a human in general. But for moms, it's like, it's a whole different ball game, I feel like. And because within all of my podcasts, I want to kind of help you get on that journey and find some movement through some of the things that might be bothering you now. Because you might be listening to this and you might be like, I've freaking had it. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm tapped out. I'm at my wits' end. And I want to hold space for that. And I also want to be able to give you tools or insights into that so that maybe you can get small wins at least and start moving the needle forward for yourself, whatever that needs to look like for you. So, that said, I want to give you a couple of tips on how to get going finding yourself again. And maybe you just had a child, maybe you had a child years ago, maybe you're getting ready to have a child. There's like a lot of stages you could be at, but this is still the core essence of staying grounded in yourself or finding your way back to yourself within whatever's changed that for you. And number one is getting curious with yourself, learning to have compassion for yourself and show up from a place of non judgment. And that's one of the things that as coaches, we teach with our children. But if we can start that with ourselves, it's so much easier to extend that grace and that compassion to our children when we can do that with ourselves. So the best place to practice that and to get going with that is on ourselves. So instead of shaming yourself when something goes wrong or you have a reaction or whatever, just start asking yourself the questions of like, where did this come from? What might be the underlying story here? What might be going on within me that is causing this kind of reaction? Why am I bothered? I ask myself that all the time. Why am I so bothered by this? And then I have to kind of like do some of that digging. Journaling is a great way to do that. And number two, once you've done that, is to just make a small, like baby step. Take one little bitty choice and go with it. Something that's intentional and based on what you value as a mom, as a person, as a wife, as a family. What are your goals? What are your values for where you see your life going and your relationships going? And make that choice not for your family, but for yourself. But if you know what you want for your family and what you value, make those choices for yourself. Your identity is significantly increased and built through autonomy. And when you have the choices for yourself, when we have choices, we get to decide who we want to be. For example, playing a video game, right? You can choose to be the good guy or the bad guy. And that's a very extreme example of like good or bad, but you get to choose the path that you take. And it's the same concept in life. You get to look at all of the things that you want to do and where you want to be going and what you want your outcomes to be. And you get to make those choices. So even if it's a tiny little thing, you get to make that choice on how you show up in your next move, your next breath, your next moment, whatever that looks like. You get to choose what that looks like. You don't have to have 3 hours worth of self-care to feel good. You could take 5 minutes. You could go for a walk with the dog. You could take a bath. You could just have a moment to listen to a song. You could get with your kids in the kitchen, blare some music, and have a dance party if that feels like self-care for you. Getting to know the things that make you feel good and then choosing something little like that to give yourself the choice of taking care of yourself and building back that identity through the autonomy and through that power of choice. Number three is stop expecting pre-baby you to be there because she's gone. She is just a memory in the distance. She is, I thought of like the ghosts of girlfriends past. It's like ghosts of Jessica's past or whatever. She's not that person. She's not here anymore. The new version of you is here and you get to decide who that person is. The old version of you served a purpose during that time. She took care of you during that time. She held you up and she did all the things she was supposed to do at that time. And she no longer serves. And so she has passed the baton to this new version of yourself. So holding yourself to a standard pre-baby is so not only not realistic, it is harmful to your own mental health. Giving yourself that kind of a standard when everything has been shifted, your brain has been shifted, your body's been shifted, your circumstances have been shifted, everything has changed. There's no way to be the person that you were then when you didn't have all of those things going on. So it's harmful to continue to think like that. So when you get into that pattern of thinking like that, it's important for you to be like, of course she's not here. Of course I'm not showing up like that because I am not that person. And I'm not even in the same situation as that person. Like, I went physically through something different. Like, circumstantially, I am in a different place. Everything is different. So, of course, she's not here. She's doing her thing. And now I'm going to take over and do my thing. You now get to meet the person that you are and are becoming and welcome her with open arms. That leads me to number 4. Give yourself the permission to change. Be okay with that. Not only are you going to say, of course, but you're going to take that one step further. You're going to say, yes, please do. I'm giving you permission to be exactly who you are now, who you need to be now, and who you want to be now. And give yourself the permission to explore that and test things and try things and see what works and what doesn't and who you're becoming. You can give yourself the permission to shed the old skin, the old version, to step out of the water and onto the land and allow yourself to transform into this beautiful, different, more complex, more nuanced, more just beautiful version of you. And number 5, a really big reflective question I think that I want you to sit with though for a while is, who am I when nobody needs me? If there's no strings attached, if there's no pressures, there's no anything that comes with it, who am I? Even if you are like, I don't fucking know, that's okay. Sit with it, because that's not a failure. That's you understanding, like, I don't know. I don't know. And now I have the space to explore that. And that's really powerful too. If you don't know, that can also be extremely powerful, because then you can go out and find it. It's kind of like that first little breadcrumb that is going to lead you down the path to who knows, but that's the adventure, right? Life's an adventure. So all of that said, if you're listening to this and you're feeling a little exposed, know that that's okay. Know that it's valid. Know that I'm holding space for you and sending all my love to you and all of my support, because I know what it's like to feel like your entire being and who you thought you were has just been completely demolished and bulldozed over. And you're like, just standing there like, what in the actual is going on? That's still my life. I'm not even gonna lie. But I know what it's like. And so I want you to know that somebody out there gets it, even when you feel like they don't. Somebody gets it. I get it. You're not alone. You're not failing. You're a good mom. You're a good person. You're a good woman. You're figuring it out. You're transforming into a beautiful dragonfly. Dragonflies actually kind of creep me out a little bit, but they're cool. They're cool. I don't want to be near them. They freak me out a little bit, but you're transforming into something magnificent and awe-inspiring and unique. And that is, I think, the entire essence of being a human being and being a mother. And I think that that's just, I don't even have words for that. It's just a miracle. It's amazing. There's so much depth to that. And I don't think that we sit back enough and really think about the depth that we carry as people and as humans and as moms and as wives. And yeah, I just think it's really cool when you sit back and think about it from an objective state and not when you're like in the trenches and like feel like you're being like beat down like that. I'm going to give like a million metaphors, but like that Forrest Gump when they're like, it rained this way and that way. And sometimes it even rained up. Like in those moments, of course, it doesn't feel beautiful. But when you can sit back and like objectively look at things, it is amazing. Is you finally fighting for space to be seen, to take up that space, to be you. And that's fucking awesome. Girl power. Okay. Anyway, I could ramble on this for days to come. Know that I'm here. Know that I've got you. I would love it if you would leave a review or reach out and talk with me, because I love having these conversations with you. And we're going to reclaim ourselves together, because that's fucking, like I said, girl power. Take care of you. If no one's told you today, I love you. You're amazing, and I will see you in the next one. Alrighty, friend, that is it for today's episode. And if you needed this, same. Truly, if this episode hit home for you, share it with another mom who's in the trenches right now. We are building a community, one that many of us never had, and your voice helps so much more than you know. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on what's coming next. And if you feel like leaving a review, I won't say no. All right, babe, take a breath, drink some water, give yourself some grace, and I will catch you on the next episode. Keep reclaiming yourself and your family, one messy, magical step at a time.